Hello, welcome to Hammer Down Woodworking. My name is Tracy Maxfield, and today I'm going to take you on a tour around the shop of my dust collection system. This is a 6.5 horsepower shop vac. I think it's like a 16 gallon. And I just run the vacuum line that come with it up back down to the Dust Deputy. This is a Dust Deputy by Oneida Air Systems. It's actually probably the smallest one that you can buy. I was actually shocked at how small it was when I took it out of the box, but it works real well. And I've got it attached to the top of a 55 gallon drum, and of course that has the seal ring all the way around it. I haven't had any issues out of that at all. I have 2 of these drums, and when one gets full, I just pull that one out and replace it with the other one. And I don't have to take that off, both lids and everything. They're both identical, and I can just put that lid on top of the other drum and put the lid from the drum I'm changing out onto this one, and it works out real well. And I have had absolutely no issues at all out of this shop vac. I have more than enough suction power for a shop my size. I do have issues with the fine dust, but that'll probably be another video down the road with doing an air purification system. But anyway, I have run as far as pipe, and I know this right here is a no-no to have a turn in your air line right off the bat, but for the way that this set and the way that I had to put it in my size shop, I had to do that. But it has caused me absolutely no issues as far as collecting my sawdust. The only issues that I have had with this so far is my neighbor's tree. When the leaves fall off, they blow into my shop, and after 2 times I have learned to sweep those up instead of vacuuming them up, because they will clog when I get down to the 1.5 inch or the 2 inch lines. But anyway, that's just a fitting. And what this right here is, this tape, I put that on there to take out electrical static, and it has worked. It has worked for me. If you notice right here, I think that's either 16 or 18 gauge wire that is fastened in the head of the screw, goes clean into the pipe, and it circles around, wrapping around this pipe. You can see it coming over again right here. And then I've jointed all this together with this 3M ductwork tape. It's kind of a metal, and it has helped. I have had absolutely no issues at all out of static with this system. And coming on across, and there's all kinds of stuff just piled on top of this line, and I'll show you how I've done that wire and also the blast gates when we get around the other side. But it goes straight down this wall and makes a turn in that corner and comes out behind my table saw with another turn, and then comes all the way down to the end of this bench. And for these ports that are on the back side of this workbench, I reduced from a 3 inch line with a 1.5 inch Y coming off of it down to 2. I've got 2 of them, one here and one back over there. If you can see it, I'll show it to you in just a second. But I've reduced down to 1.5 inch. I've got 2 1.5 inch ports on this workbench on this side. And if you notice, I've turned this going toward the dust collection. system itself. And this right here is the on and off remote for the vacuum on it, and I have a remote switch that I can turn this on from anywhere in the shop, or if I'm at this station where the scroll saw and this bandsaw is at, or if I'm just vacuuming off wood by hand, I can just hit that button and use that. And these blast gates, which I'll take a couple of those off and show them to you in a few minutes. They're real easy to build, and give you a look at those, and you can kind of see how they're done. But I have took plumber's tape and banded this down to this table all the way around to that corner. This is the second blast gate, 1.5 inch blast gate, and you can see better probably here. And I have, if you notice this screw, I've put connectors on this and jumped across. That one screwed in on the other side of that joint, and I have just laid that tape down across every one of those, just a single band all the way around it. And this one is kind of hard to see for all my clamps. It's the only place I've got to put my clamp rack, and I would fix this, but we're in the process of trying to sell our house, and I don't want to do any more than what I have to before this house sells, and I set up a different shop. But anyway, I took a T bracket. I didn't do a sweep connection on this, but I've run that wire all the way around that and put a T in it, and then come straight down with 3-inch PVC. And none of this PVC is glued together. It is all just pressure fit together. I don't have any trouble with leaks or anything like that, and if I do have a clog, I can take it back apart. But I have a blast gate in that, and then I reduce down to a 2-inch, and then that goes all the way down to this floor sweep that I can't even use due to my clamps hanging down in front of it. But it does work good. I mean, it works pretty good, but can't use it right now because of the clamps hanging down in front of it. And my solution to that, and I'll show you this connection in a minute, but from where this table saw sits over to about the area where the vise is at on top of this table, right next to that drill press, desktop drill press, I can vacuum, and I'll show you that here just in a few minutes. I can vacuum all the way to this area, and I have bought a 12-foot 1.5 inch line, which is in that box under that table. I bought that, and I can hook that to this port, and I can vacuum all of this corner in here, even up and under that table saw, because this is only like 5 foot or so between the table saw and this bench, and my workbench and this bench. But I can vacuum all that out. This is a downdraft, and I just put blue tape on it. It's done pretty well, but it's probably not the ideal tape for this with dust being collected around it. But this is a downdraft table, and I can put small parts on that, hook it up to the port that's at the end of the workbench, and I can sand small parts, and it pulls it down through that hole. And all that is hardboard with I think those are something like 3/8 inch holes drilled all in it. I drew a grid out on it and drilled all those in it, but anyway, that's a different video. Now this is the corner over behind my table saw, which is just right down from that port, and that is another 90. That's 2 90s that's in this, and that's 3-inch line, and 90s are something you want to avoid if at all possible. Due to the size of my shop, I could not avoid them. But anyway, that comes down across the back of my table saw, and if you notice, it's still got the tape and the wire wrapped around it, and that goes all the way around, and there's a jump on it on each joint. And I have all kinds of wood just piled everywhere in here too. And I have a blast gate on my table saw, and that goes into a soft line which turns back into the port, dust collection port on my table saw. I have an old Craftsman saw sitting there covered up that I have my dado stack in that has absolutely no dust collection on it, but if I get into a different shop, I plan on trying to fix dust collection for that, and if I do, I'll shoot a video on it. And coming down from the table saw all the way down the back of my workbench, you can see how I've just took plumber's tape and banded this right to the back of my workbench, and all the way down to the last blast gate is right here, and it reduces from 3-inch to a 2-inch line. And this is a soft line, and I have just epoxied 2-inch couplings on this. And as you see, I can just pull it off and plug it on, which that's my joiner. Unplug it and plug it to whichever tool I'm needing, and it will reach that router table, which is a 2-inch PVC coming out of the back of that fence. It fits the joiner, and it also fits this sander, and it fits my planer. And coming around, it fits the joint, or the blast, or fits the dust port on my bandsaw, and also will hook up to the dust port on that radial arm saw. And I can just unplug it and plug it into whichever machine I'm using by just pulling it off and plugging it to the next one, and that has worked out real well. And you would think that with this flexible line being in a turn that you'd get clogs in that all the time. So far I have not had any clogs here. The only clogs that I have had has happened in that section of the joint over there. The debris and everything has passed both of those 90s. It has went around this flexible line in any direction that it has been pulled. For some reason or another, it gets clogged the most right in this area. And what I have done for that is I went and bought a 25-foot plumbing snake, and I can pull the blast gate right off of that, feed that plumbing snake down through that, and I have had it to hang up right here. I don't know if it's because it reduces it so small, but you'd think with that angle on it, and it's not that I'm using this when it has clogged. It's coming from toward the workbench, and it's clogging as it passes this. I don't know if it's building up at the bottom of this, but that gate is shut, and it still sometimes wants to clog right at the bottom of those. And I'll take that plumbing snake at whichever one it's at and run that snake down through it. And the way that I find it, if it's at this one or at the other one, is I'll open this blast gate here first, and if I've got suction at this one, I know it's got to be this one over here to the right. And if I don't have any suction here, I'll go down into that with that snake and clear that out. And if I have suction there and I don't have suction here, I know it's clogged back at this one. And you can do the same thing if you have a clog all the way around, but the thing that has clogged it has been leaves from the neighbor's tree. Okay, I'm going to show you a look at this blast gate, how I made it. This is a 3/4 inch plywood, 2 pieces of it. I cut those out the same size and drilled a hole through that with a Forstner bit. And then I took a 1.5 inch coupling and sawed that in half, and then I just epoxied that onto that hole on each side, on each piece. Then I took a piece of hardboard and cut that down to the width that I needed, and I took 2 strips and went over along the outside edges of that. And in order to get just that relief for that to slide, you can see still just a little bit of the blue tape on one side of one of those strips, and that give it just enough relief. And then this is piece of 3/4 inch plywood also, with just a saw curve cut out in it, and then glued to the end of that hardboard on each end. And all my blast gates are made the same, constructed the same way. And if you make these and you use hardboard, you'll have a rough side and a smooth side. Turn your smooth side toward your vacuum system. That way when it's pulling, it will seal that. And I have little to no air leak at all. But those work very, very well. They work good for me, and they slide open and shut very easy. So that's how those are constructed. And if you need 2 inch, 3 inch, whatever, you'll have to upsize to the size that you're needing. But that's how I made those, and absolutely no issues. And I will show you one thing with this blast gate. Because gravity pulls it down and wants to shut it back off when I'm using it, I just put a little leg on it to hold that up. And when I'm done with it, shuts it right back down. And that has worked very well. And one other thing I might point out too, this may give you an idea for something that you've got, I don't know, but I have a router mounted in the end of my workbench, and there's no dust collection for this either. So what I do is I set my trash can under this end of the workbench, and that way anything that falls out on the bottom side will go into that trash can. Well, the most of it does. And then I can just pull this flexible line off, lay it up here on the table toward the bit, lay something on it to hold it in place, and collect off the top. And I get most of it. There will still be a little bit of cleanup, but it gets most of it. And as far as cleaning the floor around the tools, this blast gate comes open, and keep in mind this is the one furthest away from the vacuum, and it works well. I just attach that soft line to a piece of 2 inch PVC, and I have taped, I didn't join it with epoxy or anything, I just taped a vacuum attachment onto that. I think that's like maybe 8 inches, 6 to 8 inches, and it will reach from around where my planer sits all the way around to that area that I was pointing out earlier. And of course I can get the rest of that up in there with the 1.5 inch line, clean out and under the table saw what little does get down through there, which is very little. I mean, it gets the most of it. And I know this is some hillbilly construction, but hey, we're woodworkers, suck it up. Well, I hope maybe that gives you some ideas for yours, and maybe things about mine that you don't like, and maybe just that one little thing about it that you do like that you incorporate into yours that will help you some. This system works well for me. Like I say, I only had clogs. I've had clogs twice, and it was due to leaves from the neighbor's trees blowing into my garage, and I tried sucking those things up. The second time broke me. I do not do that no more. I sweep the leaves up, throw them in the trash, and my debris, absolutely no troubles at all. As far as the vacuum itself, I used the filter and a bag, and I have had only one issue with that. I let my barrel get completely full, and when you do that, it will in turn fill up your bag. As long as you keep your barrel clean, empty it out, don't let it get completely full to the top like I did, and your bag will stay empty other than the small fine dust that you collect. And it would take years to fill that bag up with that fine dust, is no more than what's caught. One improvement that I would definitely do as far as the collection itself is about probably 6 to 8 inches down from the top of the barrel, cut a slot in it, put a piece of plexiglass over that and seal it. That way I can see the sawdust level inside, and when it gets up to that glass, then empty my barrel or change my barrels out. But other than that, no issues at all. It works fine for me. It's a small shop, and like I said, we're in the process of trying to sell this house, and if we sell it, hopefully I'll get a little bit bigger shop and I can spread my tools out some, and I will rework the vacuum system all over. But this one for this shop works well. If you've got a small one, maybe some ideas comes from this that'll help you with yours. Anyway, if you like this content, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.